Hello, my name is Brian Latimer. NBC Latino and NBC Out have come together with NBC Think to chit-chat with Lupe Valdez, former sheriff and now current Democratic nominee for governor of Texas. First thing I want to ask you is about your platform. What is your elevator pitch? Why should people vote for you?
You know, I'm the eighth child of migrant workers. I grew up in the poorest neighborhood in San Antonio, Texas. To this day, it is one of the poorest zip codes in San Antonio. And from there, because of quality education, I was able to go to college, become a veteran, a federal agent for over 20 years, and the proud sheriff of Dallas County. You know, I had an opportunity that should be available to everyone. And why isn't it? I'm fighting to give the everyday Texan a fighting chance so that they can have the same opportunities no matter what zip code they come from.
And you were the sheriff of Dallas County, 7th largest police department in the country.
Sheriff's Department.
And what is it, 2,800 people under your watch?
2,800 employees, between 6,000 and 8,000 inmates.
Today with these NFL protests, today with how people trust police and also how Americans don't trust police, how do you find a way to get the community to be able to trust the police force again? Are you going to change funding? Are you going to improve mental health resources for police officers? How do you take your experiences of sheriff if you were to become governor and make that change?
There is no doubt that there's distrust between some communities and law enforcement. And it's well-based. When I first got into law enforcement, my parents, who still lived on the poor side of San Antonio, were very upset with me. They had the concept that I was going to become like everybody else. This was in the 60s, 70s, and they had known other Latinos who had become law enforcement and had turned. They wanted to behave like their peers. They wanted to be like the guys and gals that were around. So they also were abusive of certain people in the community. My father and brothers during the 40s were beat up for no reason at all, except for not rushing across to the other side of the tracks, you know, after dark. So they had a lot of distrust. But what was important is that toward the end of my career, or the last few years that my dad was alive, he accepted the fact that I was an officer. And he did that by bragging to his friends. I would come up, he would reach in my pocket, pull out my badge, and say, my daughter is a federal agent, but she's not like the rest of them. And then she would put it back. And we'd go to another person, and he would pull it out. And say, my daughter is a federal agent, but she's not like the rest of them. And he'd put it back. I think that's a very clear picture of how my own family distrusted law enforcement. But as law enforcement looks more like the community, we accept that we have a challenge and we work to get rid of that. I'm hoping that we get to the point where the police can be trusted by everyone. But in order to do that, law enforcement has to take certain measures. First of all, they have to hold their officers accountable. You just saw we're in Dallas, by the way, as sheriff, we led that investigation where an officer was convicted of murder. A white officer was convicted of murder when he shot a black gentleman. So you can tell that Dallas is the place where a lot of changes are happening. And it's because the law enforcement is beginning to look more and more like the community. I made it a point when I was sheriff to make sure and hire Muslims, African Americans, Asians, Hispanics, whites, made sure that we hired a combination of all of us so that we would look like the community. And when we come from those communities, we know how to react better to what's going on there. And I always said, I never wanted a community that for their first time seeing an officer was when there was a law enforcement action. I wanted them to see an officer at school, at the community, at picnics, at groundbreakings, at churches. We were known to be out in the community. I wanted people to see the officers as human beings first before they had to enforce an act. And I think how we pick, how we choose people determines the reaction of how they're going to behave. How we pick, how we train, how we encourage. I took over a department that was pretty much good old boys club. And it was known, if you were a minority and you got arrested, you were going to get a beating. You know, that was pretty common. But from that, a whole bunch of us worked to change the department. Training, encouragement, different views. To change the department to be more to serve and protect, not hate and discriminate. So, you know, I'm strong-minded enough to believe that we can head in the correct direction and do what needs to be done so that we can once again become the servers and protectors of our community.
You told Morning Joe that Texas is not a red state per se, but in fact a non-voting state.
Totally.
What does that mean?
Totally. Well, it has been gerrymandered quite a bit. So people are discouraged from voting. But in a statewide race, it has nothing to do with how they draw it up. It's the whole state. But we're 49th in voting. There's only one state that votes less than we do. In their defense, the current administration does everything they can to discourage people from voting, including fear-mongering. You know, they just sentenced a woman to 5 years in jail because she accidentally voted while she was on probation. She thought she could vote on probation, and she voted. So they sentenced her to 5 years in jail. We don't sentence robbers to 5 or 10 years in jail, but we'll sentence a person who voted when she wasn't supposed to and didn't know about it. The current administration will do all kinds of things to keep the Texas citizen from voting. What are they afraid of? The truth is, if the people vote, a lot of these ideas wouldn't continue. But we need to get the people out to vote. We're a red state because people don't vote. Our job is to make sure we can go out there, hear the message. Your vote will count in my race and all of the statewide races. So come out and vote.
Well, it sounds like you're pulling a page out of the Gillum playbook in Florida and the Stacey Abrams playbook in Georgia. Are you registering people? How are you getting people to come out?
Yes, we're registering folks, and they pulled it from my playbook. No, I'm just teasing. But we're registering folks. There's a lot of grassroots organizations. You have Battleground Texas. You have Indivisible. You have, oh my goodness, there's just a whole bunch of them. The Mothers Against Gun Violence. You have MAD. You have all these organizations that are out there doing things to make sure that we get out the vote. Like, as I said, it's just that they don't vote. If folks voted in Texas, everything would change. They continually tried to put up ID qualifications that are difficult to meet. And they continually tried to do things to suppress the vote. Because if Texas votes, it wouldn't be in the situation that it's in now. So our message is to register voters and then bring them out to vote. And those that are already registered, don't stay home. Your one vote counts. Wasn't it Virginia where one vote decided either a House or a state race? But I know one vote in Irving, Texas decided a race. So votes do matter, and we have to encourage the people to get out to vote.
I do want to go back to criminal justice reform because
Sure.
you mentioned the woman on probation who went to prison for voting on probation. What does criminal justice reform mean to you? What do you think you can accomplish if you were to become governor?
Look, as I said, I come from the poorest neighborhood in San Antonio. The question was, every time I came home from college, how many more people have been arrested? And the question was usually, how many overdosed? And yet somehow I made it out. And I honestly believe it was because of quality public education. In order to change things, we've got to start with quality public education. Then there has to be reform. As I mentioned, I'll accept the fact, and I know that there has been a lot of disparity between communities and law enforcement. We have to change that, and it's changing. In Texas, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, El Paso, Austin have great folks in law enforcement as sheriff that are making changes to make sure that their staff is fair and equal and held accountable. But there's several things we need to do. Decriminalize marijuana. How many people have not been able to get a job because they have to check that little box? Have you ever been arrested? And they may have served 4 months, 6 months for a couple of joints, but they still have to check that box. You know, we have to decriminalize marijuana. And we have to start looking at other things. If a person cannot get a job, what are they supposed to do? You know, and while sheriff, one of the things I did was provide short-term training for job skills. Welders, machinists, commercial printers, commercial sewing. You can teach those skills and certification from the local college within 4 to 6 weeks. In the jail, of course, it's short-term folks. The difference between jail and prison. You know, prison, you're found guilty, you're already serving your term. In the jail, you're waiting, at least in Texas, you're waiting to go to court or to see if you're mentally capable or a probation hearing or something, you're waiting. So it's short-term. So we had to find skills that you could teach and get certified in 4 to 6 weeks. And we found them. I had a great programs manager that would forecast and see what the jobs were and what jobs were needed without long-term education. And we found them. And often, at least 3 times within a decade, I would run into someone who would say to me, I was in your jail, I got some training, and now I own a business. We need to do things to keep people from going back to the same old thing. What is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. The person comes out of jail, we throw them right back in the neighborhood where they came from. And I think it was, I saw one survey where it said, I think it was a Pew report, where it said if you take a young man or woman and you put them in jail, you have a large percentage, I think it was 80% chance that they're going to become criminal. If you take that same person, hold them accountable for their offense, but not put them in jail, you have the same percentage that they're not coming back. You know, we've learned this. Why aren't we doing something about it? And I do believe that some people cannot be out of society. My statement has always been, jail is for the people we're afraid of, not for the people we're upset with. You know, so if somebody throws a brick through your car, you're upset. You know, you're going to have to get off work to get it fixed, to call the insurance, to make arrangements for them to get to the car, all of this. And the natural reaction is, he hurt me, he needs to go to jail. But that's not the answer. They have to be held accountable. You can't just not hold people accountable. But jail is not necessarily the answer.
And you're also looking for ways to reduce recidivism. Would you ban the box in Texas?
Yes. Yes, I would have no trouble with that. Now, what they're doing, and I believe it's in Dallas or Houston, what they're doing is the box is not there. At some point, they find out that you have been to prison, but they at least give you the opportunity to see if you're the type of employee I would want. With the box, you never even got through the front door. And what they're doing now is you get through the front door, you're qualified, you have the interview. And if the person feels that you are, or realizes that you are the employee they need, they will ask you. But at that point, you already know you're the employee they want. And if it's a nonviolent crime, I don't see any harm in that. I believe Dallas is doing that for several, sanitation workers. There's like 3 or 4 categories where they're already starting to do that, and they wanted to see what the results of that would be. So I would ban the box if it proved to be a good solution.
And you've campaigned with Beto O'Rourke, who is currently challenging Ted Cruz for his Senate seat. What other national figures have you campaigned with? And also, more broadly, do you feel that you have the support of the national party, the Democratic Party, behind you?
You know, there's been so many long months that I can't think of who I've been. John Leguizamo, we just got his endorsement, and we received several endorsements. But I do believe that I have the support of the Democratic Party, especially the Texas Democratic Party. We discuss quite often about our campaign and how we're going to go continue the next 60 days. So yes, I do feel that we have a strong support, and even nationally. The reason I'm in New York, you know, is a national audience. And we are also reaching out to California. We're going to be in California. But what's important is the people of Texas. The people of Texas are the ones that are going to vote. And those are the ones that I need to continually touch. Those are the ones that I need to help them hear my message.
Several of the campaign ads that are attacking you and your campaign say that you're too liberal, and they talk about how you think that Texas should expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act, because that's not something that they did. 1 in 7 Texans do not have health care. What is your plan for the state?
Well, the first thing we plan to do is accept the Medicaid expansion. You know, because of our current governor's lack of will to accept that, we have 1.5 million people who are not on health care. That many could be put immediately on health care if we accepted the Medicaid expansion. If that's liberal, I'll take that. If it's liberal that I want everyone to get a quality public education, I'll accept that. If it's liberal that I want everybody to have a fair shot at being able to see the doctor, that your zip code or your income shouldn't determine when you get sick if you have the ability to see the doctor, I'll take that as liberal. If it's liberal that I want people to have a fair shot at the economy and not just a certain percentage. Less than 30% of Texans make a middle-class wage. Less than 30%. That means that over 70% can't even get to the middle class yet. If that's too liberal, I'll take it. The truth is that what they're calling too liberal is actually helping the people and caring about the people of Texas.
And for the Latino voting population specifically, immigration isn't the main issue that they vote on.
It's not.
You know, there are economic issues, again, also health care. How do you reach out to more conservative-leaning social Latinos, and how do you get them to vote?
My opponent has said that the conservative Latinos will vote for him because of family values. Hate and intolerance is not a family value.
Is that something that you associate with Governor Abbott or
My goodness,
the larger party?
He gladly signed the Senate Bill 4, which was called by the whole U.S. one of the most racist bills and cruelest bills that there is. And basically what it does is give local law enforcement permission to go after the undocumented. And it racial profiles the Latino quite a bit. If in Texas, if you're Latino and you're afraid of getting stopped because of how you're associated, thank Greg Abbott. And so I believe that the Latinos have more than one thing that they care about. And the things that go across party lines, they go across economical lines, is public education and health care. And you know, we talk about a healthy economy in Texas, all these jobs. Yes, I know people who are working 2 or 3 of them just to make ends meet. That's not healthy for them. What a good employer wants is a healthy and educated workforce, and that's what I'm fighting for.
In your experience, how did SB4 affect your department? Did it lower crime rates? Did it improve relations? Or did it inflame tension between the people and the police force?
Let's make it very clear. Every major city in Texas, sheriff and police department, went and testified against this bill. Every single major city went and testified against this bill. Myself with several other law enforcement said, this is not a good bill. We are working to get the trust of the community. Painting us as somebody who's coming after you, not for criminal offense, but just because of who you are, is not a good community relations. And as before was sold, it was sold as a bill that would bring safety and security to the neighborhoods, when in reality, what it brought is fear to a lot of neighborhoods. And now Houston actually has stats on how far down the reported crimes have been in certain areas.
So crime rates appear to be going down, but that's because less people are reporting them.
And the perpetrator or the person causing the offense knows that they're afraid. So the first thing they do after harming them is, you better not tell, or we're going to call the police on, for your immigration. So you're having victims all over this major cities. That is not a way to bring safety and trust to a department. So many of us told the committees that this was not a good idea. And it still isn't a good idea. People who have crimes committed against them should be able to report it. We're sitting here allowing victims to get hurt and allowing criminals to just go free because they know about the fear of the people they prey on. So it didn't bring down crime. My opponent brags about we have safer neighborhoods. We have safer neighborhoods because we have better departments. The departments are engaged with the community. So of course we're going to have better departments. It's not because of his hateful profiling bills. The Latinos are the ones that are going to get profiled. During the discussion of that bill, I was literally sitting in a neighborhood organization with a person from Russia, a person from Canada, and a person from Germany. I didn't ask about their status, but I said, are you afraid of being stopped because of this new bill? All blonde-haired, blue eyes. I said, no, we'll never get stopped. Guess who gets stopped? The Latino. People who look like me are gonna continually be stopped by that cop or that person who wants to be an immigration officer and just finds people to stop.
And I would like to go to your background and the way that you identify. You are the first openly lesbian Latina to secure the Democratic nomination for Texas governor. There are, for the past couple months, years in Texas specifically, there have been things like the bathroom bill and other things that chip away at transgender rights. And there's also the fact that in Texas you can lose your job for being openly gay. You can lose your house for being openly gay or LGBTQ. What would you do for the LGBTQ community if you were elected? Well,
first of all, I think the Texas brand that is going out right now is not the true brand. The hate and intolerance of bathroom bills and show me your papers bill, it's because of the non-voting and the people that have pushed those bills. I don't think that's the true brand of Texas. I think the true brand has yet to be seen. Yes, we're our own kind. Yes, we like the weapons and the open space. But we're not as intolerant as we're being painted out to be. So, saying that, I believe there's a large percentage of Texans who don't care whether you're LGBTQ, don't care whether you're Latina. It's about what you do. And I wouldn't have stepped down from my job. I stepped down in the middle of my term to run for governor, because I do believe that there's a larger percentage of a different brand. And I often say the U.S. hasn't seen the true brand of Texas yet. There's a lot of really good people in Texas. So, as governor, first thing I would do is pass an anti-discrimination bill. You know, that's one of the first things we have to do. And then we have to make sure that there's equal pay. You know, we can't, because you're of this class or that class, you don't get paid as much. Or equal wage for women. We're going to come in and make sure that Texas is a fair and just state for everyone, not just for certain groups. This is true for everyone. As we did in the Sheriff's Department, we made sure that it was fair for everybody. Everybody's in a level playing field. And how you advance is up to you. People just want a fighting chance. There's a Spanish saying that says, "No más le pido a Dios que me ponga donde hay." Roughly translated, God, just put me nearby. Just put me within reach. And then I'll fight like the Dickens. But I've got to be within reach. All I want to do for Texas is give the opportunity to put all of our folks within reach.
And right now, because you're within reach of the governorship, if you were to win, what do you say to the people that say that you're not experienced? What kind of things do you need to do in your administration? What kinds of people that you need to bring on to prove that you can build a group of people or bring together a group of people to run the state?
And who have you been listening to that says all these things? I don't know. But
campaign ads, really, honestly.
Not mine.
Right.
So in the Sheriff's Department, you had to work across the aisle. I mean, when I came in 2005, it was still a red county. But that doesn't stop you from doing your job. Your job needs to be done, so you have to work across the aisle. And compromise is not a bad word. It's a word to get things done. So we need to reach across the aisle and give and take so that we can get things done. And what we did in the Sheriff's Department is what we want to do for Texas, is just give everybody the opportunity. If you know, certain things have to happen, but you've got to have the road. So we just want to be able to give the road. And what more do you want in a governor than to give everyone a fair and just fighting chance?
Former Sheriff Lupe Valdez, current Democratic nominee for governor of Texas, I want to thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
This has been In Conversation, a collaboration between NBC Latino, NBC Out, and NBC Think. Thank you very much for watching.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.